Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Lewis and this is the Saku-san channel. Now on today's video I'm going to be showing you another 5 jazz albums from my collection. I'm hoping that you're going to like them. I think one at least I might have shown you years ago, and this is at a time when hardly any, but literally the viewer numbers were in single digits type thing. So hopefully this one album is going to be fresh to the majority of you. I hope that's the case. I hope that there's at least 1 or 2 albums from what I'm going to show you today when you do have a listen to them, and I'm going to leave links in the main section as normal. When you have a listen, hopefully it's going to excite your taste buds and you might want to consider them for your own collection. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing, 5 jazz albums. But before we start, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. I've got a few notes, and sorry, I just got to adjust my chair. It's creaking a bit. Yeah, I've got a couple of notices to go over with you. I'm going to keep it as brief as possible for you because I know some of you find it slightly tiring, but do forgive me. So there's 2 points. The first one in terms of housekeeping is because of your support, YouTube in their wisdom has unlocked certain features to my channel which didn't exist before, one of which is a thanks button. So in the section where you got the share icon and where you've got the like icon as well, if you slightly move over to the left of that, you will see one for thanks, basically, and that's for, I think it only works with subscribers anyway. So the whole point of it is, if you've liked my content over the last 3 years and you've bought the odd album on my recommendation and you think I'm worthy of it, then I'd appreciate it. The channel certainly would appreciate it if you wouldn't mind leaving a contribution, only if you see fit, that is. But yeah, any donations to the channel will be gratefully received. It's going to help me to buy albums going forward. It's going to help me with purchasing equipment, because as you sensible people know out there, it'll be really silly for me to invest in equipment and that sort of thing if the demand and the viewership doesn't reflect that. It has to be in tandem. It has to be able to pay for itself, type of thing. So yeah, I'm just being sensible about the whole situation. So yeah, it's a thanks icon. It's going to be in the title area of the video. If you feel that my output, my material, my videos are worthy of it, and you have appreciated some of my advice and my kind of way of thinking about jazz, and you want to leave a contribution, this is the place to do it. So thank you in advance for those who choose to participate in it. I really do appreciate that. The second point is that it's to do with merchandising, and kind of good news. I found somebody who I think I can build a relationship with in terms of rolling out merchandise going forward. We're at the discussion stage at this moment in time, excuse me, but it all looks positive, and I'm hoping in the next, I don't know, a month to 2 months maybe, I'd at least be able to show you a prototype of at least the initial line of t-shirts that I would like to get out to you. So how I'm thinking about it off the top of my head is, because we're a community here at the Saku-san channel and we're a small one, I want to look after you at the same time, and I want to kind of reciprocate some of the faith and support that quite a few of you have put into me. So I think when I get an initial batch, and it's going to be a small run of t-shirts, I'm probably going to get in contact with those viewers who have really helped me along the way. They might not think of it in that particular way. They might just thought, oh, I was just being, you know, trying to be helpful, or I was just being casual or whatever. But I'm the sort of person who takes those kind of things to heart. Particularly in, you know, the initial year of my YouTube channel, there was quite a few people who gave me some advice, tried to look out for me, and just tried to keep me going, in terms of, because it does get frustrating when nobody, you know, you're making videos and nobody's watching them, kind of thing. So there's a few of you out there who really, I do appreciate your support, and by way of saying thank you, I would like to send you one of the initial runs of the t-shirts whenever they come to be manufactured, type thing. So I'll be in touch with you either via the YouTube channel, or I'm gonna do it through my Instagram, depending on where you are and if I can track you down, type thing. So that's the initial thoughts. So outside of those freebies, there'll probably be a second and third design which will be available to channel subscribers to begin with, and yeah, we'll see how it goes from there. I'm going to try and make t-shirts the best quality that can be done. I want you to get value for whatever they come out to be priced as. I want you to get value for money. I want them to be good t-shirts. I want you to be proud of wearing them. And someday I'd like to see them out in the wild. And certainly if I see out in the wild a Saku-san t-shirt, I'm going to go absolutely mad, you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm definitely buying that person a drink, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, that would be crazy. But that's the idea anyway. So we're in discussions at this moment in time. Hopefully we can roll out an initial run for in the next month or so, month to 2 months, and we'll take it from there, type thing. Hopefully you're going to enjoy it. You're going to like the designs and the color schemes. It's going to be simple to begin with, type thing. It's not going to be elaborate. It's going to be tasteful. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of the end results. So yeah, definitely t-shirts. I'm definitely going to be doing that. There might be the odd, there may be a baseball hat, there may be mugs, that type of thing. So yeah, stay tuned. And yeah, if I have trouble finding certain people, I will make a notice of it either in a separate video or in a video to say, I'm looking for this person, please get in touch, so I can send you a gift by way of saying thank you for your support. So those are the two issues today. So I will be looking at my notes periodically just to remind myself of salient points that I was thinking about meanwhile I was listening to these albums. So yeah, it's 5 jazz albums today. Hopefully you're going to like it. Links are going to be down below so you can at least hear one track for yourself. And if that track, you know, I'm going to tell you the context in which it comes in. If you do like that track, and I would suggest listening to the whole album itself, see if it works for you, and if it does and you can get hold of it at a reasonable price or whatever you're prepared to pay for it. Yeah, I'm just putting these suggestions out there so you can decide whether or not it works for your collection. So first of all, we have a 1978 album of contemporary jazz, and it's by a gentleman called Jeff Resnick, R-E-S-N-I-C-K. And yes, this is a funny one. Some of you might have it already, or some of you might have seen it in the wild and not really known what to make of it because you didn't hear it for yourself for whatever reason. So it's the School for American Craftsmen, Rochester Institute of Technology, College of Fine and Applied Arts. Yeah, there's a lot going on in terms of titles here. So that's the front cover there, so you can see it for itself. And that's the back cover. So as I said, this is a 1978 release. Now it's one of those funny, for me anyway, it's one of those kind of albums where I think to myself, sometimes you shouldn't, you know, it's good advice not to judge a book by its cover type thing, but certainly it's beneficial sometimes to actually do that. So yeah, I saw this out in the wild without any context, and I just said to myself, and I bought this years ago, yeah, I just want to give that a listen to see what it's about, because it's like it was presented in a way that jazz albums that I'd encountered up until that point didn't look like this. They didn't have these kind of covers to them, so it fascinated me. So I gave it a listen, and there was definitely tracks on there which I'm going to go through with you, at least tell you about one of them, where yeah, from the jazz perspective it certainly worked for me. So from what I can, you know, my rudimentary research, this is like the only album I could find on, certainly on Discogs, under Jeff Resnick. And I find that really strange, because when you do get to listen to this album in its entirety, it's not all jazz. There's some experimental tones in there as well, so your mileage might vary in terms of what you like from this album. But there's at least 3 jazz adjacent tunes on there, and that's why I bought this album. I think they're really interesting tracks, interesting compositions, played with the, you know, to a standard which is befitting of any jazz album kind of thing. You're not losing out in any respect. That it was a kind of film score, or a score of music to advertise something else, is kind of like irrelevant. It gives you context, but it's kind of irrelevant. The jazz tracks and the compositions stand up on their own. So as part of my notes, I've basically said there are, from my point of view anyway, there are 3 tracks of note on this particular album from the jazz perspective. And I've written some lovely and intriguing compositions on view, played to a higher standard. Unfortunately, due to the cover art and title, this is all my opinion, the album's not given the rightful respect that it deserves. Yes, it is patchy in places, and as I said, that's to do with it's not solely a jazz album. There's other aspects on there, so there's some abstract, experimental, electronica sounds on there, which if you like those genres, you'd be absolutely fine with this album. But if you're coming at it from a jazz perspective, I'd say there's, you know, there's 3 tracks on here of note. And my overall feelings, as much as I enjoyed this album, is there was a slight disappointment in terms of Jeff Resnick obviously has a talent, and I'm not sure whether he believed it or not, or I'm not sure what the background situation was, but I certainly would pursue more of his body of work if I knew it existed, where to find it. I think he's got an ear for jazz, he's got an ear for compositions, and it's a shame that there isn't more work out there in terms of his body of work. It's a real shame that there isn't more out there, because I certainly would be interested in hearing some of it, and I'm sure based on the 3 jazz adjacent stroke jazz tracks on this album, I would purchase that material. You know, I think his talent really does stand out in that particular regard. So yeah, I just don't know what the situation is, and if somebody does know, please let me know in the comment section. This is all about an education, you know what I mean? I don't know everything, kind of thing. But yeah, it's noteworthy that there isn't more material from him, because he definitely has a talent. Maybe he pursued other genres. I just don't know what happened. So yeah, first album today, Jeff Resnick, the School for American Craftsmen. That's probably the title that you'll be able to find it under if you're doing wider searches. But yeah, 1978 release. Yeah, I'm glad to have this one in my collection. It's, yeah, I think it's like a 7-track album, but certainly 3 of those in terms of jazz, really good, really good. So that's the first album today. The second album is something of, it's something I've had on my shelf for a while, and in terms of what I listen to from my collection on a regular basis, I kind of skipped past this one for whatever reason. You know what, basically, truth be told, I forgot what the content of the album was. So if I bought it, I assume that I've liked it for a reason. I just couldn't pinpoint what that reason was. So with no further ado, this is a 2015 release, but it's not, the material on there dates to an earlier period. So I'm going to show it to you in just a second. It's George Adams, the saxophonist, and the album's entitled The Finest. There you go. So again, some of you might have seen this one in the wild. So yeah, just to give you a bit of context with this album, this is I thought it was a standalone album, you know, in that particular format, but no, it's actually an anthology piece. So material on this album comes from maybe two of his albums, maybe 3 for all I know, type thing. As a saxophonist, I really, I slightly kick myself in terms of not remembering how good this album is in parts. Now, it's not, how many tracks are on here? 6 tracks are on here. Now, I only bought it for 2 tracks. On further listening to it, really and truly, I only bought it for 2 tracks, but they are memorable tracks. And not only is the composition strong, the musicianship is top notch. I've got, you know, I've got a lot of time for this particular anthology piece. So part of my notes said there's a lot of passion on display, and there's certainly, oh, let me just stop there for a second. So the track from the actually, you know what, I'm so unprofessional. The track that I'd probably recommend from the first one, the Jeff Resnick, is Weaving. I'm glad I got that in there somewhere. And yeah, how silly of me. Yeah, that's so unprofessional. Look how I just jumped like that. Let's continue with the George Adams. So yeah, 2 tracks that really stand out for me on this particular album, in terms of style and composition. You may like the whole thing. I kind of feel it's like, apart from the 2 tracks that I really got on with, the rest wasn't really to my taste. Although it's all jazz, it's more kind of a type of jazz, subgenre of jazz, that I'm not really into. I can take it or leave it type thing, but I wouldn't buy an album based on it. So yeah, for me, there's 2 really strong tracks on here. The musicianship is phenomenal. The way that these 2 tracks hit you, they hit you like a freight train, like a juggernaut. It's bombastic, for want of a better word. It really does, it makes it a compelling listen in terms of, you are engaged because they're giving it full pelt, and it's just like, as a musical experience, you just think to yourself, wow, these guys got it down. They really did hone their set magnificently. So in terms of the power of performance, this is up there in terms of albums, jazz albums that I've got, in my opinion. They really do go for it. Yes, so the track that I would probably recommend, and I'll probably leave a link to below, is Earth Beams. The other one is City Gates, but I'm probably going to use Earth Beams. I really like that track. I'm just, I'm convinced that somebody else has done it, whether it's a Lonnie Liston Smith or some, because it seems ultra. Because revisiting this album, it's like, I know that track, but if I haven't listened to this album in ages, how is it I'm so familiar with that track? So I'm sure with the Earth Beams, somebody else has done it. But yes, I love the rendition on this particular album. It's played with gusto. So this album, because it's an anthology, you should be able to get it for reasonable money. I haven't seen it out in the wilds for a while now, but I'm sure there's going to be vendors who you can get this from. So have a listen to the whole album. You might get more mileage out of it than I do, but for me, my particular taste in jazz and what I want, because I almost, when I'm listening to jazz tracks, I always think it's just my kind of age group kind of thing. I think of, like, if I was doing a mixtape for somebody, what would I use off this album type thing, and really and truly only 2 tracks off there, in my opinion, will go onto a mixtape. So as I said, Earth Beams is the track that I'm gonna leave a link down below to. It's a 2015 release. I believe the original albums in which material from this anthology comes from are going to be from the 70s, and you know, I don't even know how much the original albums will cost. I'm sure they're going to be relatively expensive, but in terms of George Adams, I really ever heard him spoken about in wider circles. So hopefully this is going to be a journey for you, as it was for me. And yeah, there's other material. I've been looking out for other material from him from that sort of era, to see what there's anything else from his body of work which I really do enjoy. And if I do, I'll try and get my hands on it and show it to you guys at some point. But yeah, that's the second album today, or anthology today. George Adams' Finest. This one is a 2015 release, but the material is from an earlier period, stroke 70s, early 80s type thing, I would assume. So that's the second album today. The third album today, oh, let me just flick back my notes. This is one of those kind of weird situations where, by trawling through a vendor's catalog, you kind of come across a name or something that it clicks somewhere in your mind, but you don't quite know why, type thing. And this was sold at a cheap as chips price range, which I just couldn't say no to. So this is a 1973 release of contemporary jazz. It's by a British jazz group called Quincy Chasm, and I'll show you the cover. I do like the name. It's just Quincy Chasm, and I do like the font as well. The font is magnificent for that. And that's the reverse side. So to give you some kind of context, imagine a scenario where your high school or secondary school in England, that's what we'd call it, teachers and a couple of members of, like parents, got together and formed a jazz band, and the whole purpose is to do a live performance in front of the student body, just to show them the world of music type thing. This is basically what it is. So this is a small extract from a live performance from 1973 in England, of individuals who either were teachers, were to become teachers quite soon after producing this body of work, and still are in teaching, if you know, that kind of thing. So it's a fascinating backstory. So this is, again, mileage is going to vary on this. So the track that I knew of, and it's probably one that I'm going to leave a link to, um, is a track called Trent Park Song. Um, so as soon as I saw the album, it's kind of like, not only have I vaguely remember the name of that band, but definitely I've seen that title before, and I had to listen to it. It's like, yeah, that's the same tune that I've heard elsewhere in, you know, the Back and Beyond type thing. I had to have it, and I'm really glad that I did. It was at a super cheap price. I mean, it was almost giveaway, and I feel kind of blessed that I got my hands on it. But that's just me. It's hopefully by you listening to it, you might feel the same. But it's like, yeah, your mileage is going to vary on this. So what I would say is, oh, I've got some notes on this. Something of note, the vocal renderings of K. Zeserson, Zeserson, for the track Trent Park Song is unbelievable. It's haunting. It's some of you might say, "Wow, it's not the jazz that I want to listen to," but I think as a musical experiment, um, and if you like jazz vocals anyway, I mean the wide breadth of jazz vocals, not just like the classics of the, you know, Dina Washington, the Ella Fitzgerald. If your taste in jazz vocals is a bit wider than that, um, you're certainly going to appreciate that particular track. The other, this is a 4-track album EP, and the other track that I'd probably recommend from this particular EP is Karen. Yeah, it's in this particular 2013. Sorry, not. When I say 2013, in 2023, you know, the term Karen denotes something else, but they certainly didn't mean it at that stage, and it's a good track. Um, yeah, this is like more kind of like, it's typical British kind of out there jazz. It's a fun ride. It's not to everybody's taste, but the tracks that I'm highlighting should, I hope, interest at least some of you out there in terms of jazz. And it's different. I love my British. I've come to love my British jazz because it's got a distinct flavour to it. It's not in this era, and this particular band, they're not trying to ape which is coming out of the US. They're not trying to do that. They're just doing their own thing. It happens to be in the world of jazz, but yeah, they're giving their unique spin on it, and that's what I find interesting to have in a collection, is to have something which is not what everyone else has got, type of thing. So if you're in the US or any other territory other than the UK, you might find more mileage out of this album, this EP, than most will. You'll sympathize with what's going on in this. So I said certainly give it a listen. That I got it cheap, I'm not sure what will happen in your particular case, depending on where you live in the world and the vendors that you use. I don't know how hard it is going to be, or how expensive it will be for you to get hold of this, but I certainly got it for cheap as chips, and I'm super glad about it. So it's a wild ride. It's a wild ride. So strap yourselves in. It's not for the faint-hearted. But yeah, give it a listen, see what you think. Hopefully you're going to enjoy it, because I certainly did. But the mileage will vary. You know, I can appreciate that some people out there on here in the wider context of the album would say, no, that's not for me. But there's going to be a certain, percentage of you, the audience, who will go, yeah, you know what, that, and what you've come to expect with me as well is that I'm always, gonna give you something slightly different as well. even for you to say, well, that's not for me, I don't mind that. But I'm certainly happy to have it in my collection anyway. So that's Quincy Chasm. It's a 1973 release, and yeah, I'd say it's contemporary jazz stroke experimental jazz type thing. So hopefully you'll like it. I'll leave a link down below so you can hear it for yourself, at least one track from it. So that's the third album today. Yes, sorry about that. I heard somebody at my door type thing, so you had to do a quick pause. Excuse me for a moment. So that was the third album, Quincy Chasm, 1973 release. The fourth album today. I knew of the existence of this album for ages, and it took me a while to get my hands on a copy. So again, I think that's to do with what territory you live in the world. It's going to be easier or harder depending on where you live type thing. But certainly for me, this is a lovely bit of fun. So I would aim this album at the beginner, and the intermediate will get a lot from it. The experience would probably already have this album, but excuse me, but you're going to get a lot out of it in terms of its sense of fun. I would say is really quite at its forefront. It's not taking itself too seriously, but that's not to say it's not good, because it is really good. But it's a case of it's fun more than anything. So this is a 1978 release. It's by Joanne Gruer, Grauer, and it features the vocal talents of Lorraine Feather. Quite a unique album art there. So certainly the front side, the lips and that reminds you somewhat of the Rolling Stones Flaming Lips type thing, but yeah, she's got as teeth, which is, you know, it's an artistic choice. The teeth are actually keys, piano keys. It does work because she is, you know, Joanne Gruer is a jazz pianist, so it does work technically. It's like, but I think the more you think about what the actual graphic is doing, the more you kind of go, yeah. Yeah, let me read some of my notes on this particular one. The immediate thing is notable. Paulino da Costa, the percussionist, features on this album, so yeah, you know you're going to get a good sound with it. It's Miss Gruer's sophomore album, so yeah, her second album out of the gate, and it does show a maturity, you know, and there's definitely, but as I keep saying this, there's a sense of fun on this particular album. Again, your mileage is going to vary depending on your taste in jazz, so you got some energetic pieces, piano kind of solos in there, as well as you got some jazz vocal tracks on there. And I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the 9 tracks on here, for me anyway, 3 of which are the standout tracks. Everything else on there I can basically leave it, kind of thing. But your mileage might be different, so I'm going to leave at least 1 track sample in the main, down in the description area, so you can hear it for yourself. Do have a listen to the whole album and see what you think, and see whether or not it's going to fit into your collection. But like, I kind of half assume that quite a few of you already have this album, but if you don't, hey, it may be something for you to consider. It's a sense of fun now, I can't deny it. Let's see what else. Can't fault. Let's see. So 3 of the 9 tracks are worth the admission fee alone. Oh yes, again, yeah, one of the curious things, just like Jeff Resnick is, Joanne Brewer, there's not, as far as I know, there's 2 albums of hers in existence. I probably could be, you know, I'm quite willing to accept that she might have more albums out there. I couldn't find them on Discogs, which, you know, it's not the be all, and, you know, as a resource, it gives you an idea of what's out there, but it doesn't tell you everything. So she may well have material out there that I don't know about, but I certainly would like to pursue some of her other albums, you know, to see if any of the others like fit into my tastes. And on the strength of this album, I'd say that there probably is other material by her that I would enjoy. So yeah, I will be searching for her other parts of her back catalogue if they do exist. You know, and then, you know, in months and years to come, I'll be looking out for something else by her to see if it works for my collection. Yeah, it's always a bit weird when you come across talents and they seem to just do 1 or 2 albums and that's it, kind of thing. Because you kind of like, you appreciate what they're doing and you kind of want more of it, but, you know, circumstances could be what they are, and she decided that, you know, she's done enough. If this was, you know, if I had any musical talent and this was my sole album that I brought out, I'd be satisfied with that. I'd say, you know, I'd do the thing of like, you know, I can dust myself off. I've done it. Don't need to do it again. But yeah, it's as I said, it's a fun piece. This one, the I can't. I'm deciding between 2 tracks on here. I mean, the track that you might know of hers is a jazz vocal track with Lorraine Feathers doing the vocals, and that's "See You Later." But in terms of this album and I knew that track "See You Later" from ages ago, type thing, and I do like it. But for me, the standout kind of jazz pieces are a track called Gork, Gork, and Frog Child, and these are Miss Gloria's actual original compositions, and I think I'm going to pick one of the 2 to in the actual sample section so you can hear it for yourself and get a sense of, it gives you a good sense of what this album is. And I just think she's a talent. She is. And for those who have never encountered her before, you're in for a treat. So yeah, it's just one of those things. I wanted to put a happy kind of accessible jazz album in there as well, but don't mistake that for simplistic. That it's accessible, and it's played, you know, that her tempo speed is really quite fast, but don't mistake that for a lack of talent, because that wouldn't be the case. It really wouldn't be fair, and it's not the case. She is a talent. Yeah, I just wanted to introduce, you know, a bit of fun. Sometimes, you know, the albums I show you are serious, you know what I mean? They're serious undertakings. And sometimes you want to balance that out with a bit of fun, and it's like you certainly get it on this album. So, as I said, 1978 release, it's jazz pianist Joanne Brewer, and I'll leave a link down below for one of the tracks. I'll pick one and so you can hear it for yourself, and then I say go off and listen to the album in your own time type thing. So yeah, that's the 4th album. The 5th, and by no means least, album I'm going to show you today. You know, we've had, you know, a recent popular video of mine was to do with Japanese jazz, and thank you for all those who watched it. I've got a Japanese jazz album for you. It's by, what, first of all, let's give you the date of when it was released. 1977. I would kind of general terms describe this as a modal post-bop content on this album, and it's by the Masura Amada Trio. So I think the album that I showed on the Japanese jazz episode was their album Caterpillar. I think this is a later album of theirs. So let me first of all show you the cover. Love that cover, really do. Let me show you the reverse side and show you the interior as well. So give you some wider context to begin with. In that Japanese jazz video, I did talk to you about the BBE label and them reissuing, particularly thankfully for the European market, a lot of the classic Japanese jazz albums. This is one of them. So they've done a fantastic job in terms of packaging. The vinyl itself was lovely, you know, 180 grams, all that kind of bells and whistles, fantastic. So that's just to give you a wider context of who put this out there, that type of thing, and it gives you an idea of the availability of this album. So certainly in the European territory, you should be able to get this if you're interested in it. You should be able to get it relatively easy, I hope, for your sake. Yeah. So with this album, Masuda Amada is a jazz pianist. So for me, this is a delicate and classy affair. So unlike all the other albums I've shown you today, this one, it again, it's kind of like when I say it's typical of Japanese jazz style, maybe, yeah, in general terms, yeah. Because they don't necessarily go for powerhouse, they go for subtlety, and yeah, they go for subtlety more than anything. So in my experience, I like this album. It is patchy in places. I don't like all the tracks on here. So let's just have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5-track album. I like maybe 2 or 3 off it. Yeah, maximum 3 off it. So that's a pretty good ratio by, you know, how I buy things and what my expectations are. That's within, you know, within line with how I do things. So the interesting compositions played with measured honesty. So yeah, delicacy and honesty, I think, are my overall kind of feelings about this album. Designed to delight you rather than overpower you. An enjoyable journey. And then I've kind of put an asterisk saying it's a safe album. So I think what I mean by that is you could play this to most people and there's nothing which will cause them offense or jar them. Like sometimes with jazz albums you get the screechy saxophone kind of solos, which, you know, to those who are not used to jazz, even if you are into jazz, you might find it just too overpowering. It's just like, can you tell that person to stop type thing. No, this doesn't really do that. It's safe, but again, don't mistake that for a lack of quality, because this really is a really fine production. So the track that I'd probably use off this one is Sea Pastures. I think I might change my mind, but Sea Pastures will be the track that I'm going to recommend for you to have a listen to. I'm going to leave a link down below so you can hear it for yourself. Do give this album a good listen to, and a concentrated effort version, because you can lose a lot of the subtlety of what's going on, the nuances. But if you try and whiz through tracks with this one, no, you got to give it a listen to and see how you feel about it. See if it works for you. Certainly does for me. I'm glad to have it in my collection. Always nice to have another, you know, high standard Japanese jazz album in my collection. That's just the way I am. You may or may not feel the same about it, but at least I kind of shown it to you and you can make your own informed decision about it. So that's the 5th and final album today. Hopefully out of the 5 there's going to be at least 1 or 2 which when you actually hear it for yourself, if you're not familiar with it, you're going to enjoy it. Give me a second. Yeah, that's the aim. So thank you once again for joining me. Like I said in the introduction, if you've enjoyed the output over the last 3 years, or you know, if you enjoyed any of my videos and you want to buy me a coffee type thing by way of thanks, there is going to be the thanks button in the title area where you can donate to the channel, and you know, yeah, that's all I can say type thing. As I said, as weeks and months go on, I'll tell you more about the t-shirts kind of thing, the merchandising thing. I'll tell you about that when I've got more information. If you found the video mildly informative, mildly interesting, please consider giving it a like. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I'll appreciate that. It costs nothing to do these things, and I'm just here to share my taste in jazz and give you a perspective which most other jazz vinyl content creators are not providing you with. So I'm trying to do something different, and that's just my taste in jazz anyway. So thank you once again for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I will see you soon for another video, and that'll probably be the Christmas one. So I'm going to try and release 2 videos, one to do with jazz albums and the other one to do with my favorite albums that I bought this year. They won't necessarily be jazz, but if you see last year's version of it, then you'll kind of get a sense of other genres that I'm interested in. So yeah, I think during December I'm going to put out 2 videos. Yeah, so sorry about that. That was the memory card doing its thing. As I said, I'm probably going to release 2 videos in December, because more people are going to be on their holidays, so it's going to be worth it. And I do want to do these videos. I want to do my regular schedule, and I want to add in like my things that really touched me in terms of what I've purchased this year. So I'm going to do a video about that as well. So until then, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will see you for another video relatively soonish. So until then, take care. Bye bye.